Hey there, Internet! You're probably wondering what kind of operating system or program or whatever I have here on the screen, and that I'm running on my laptop. Well, this in particular is Linux Mint. Now, this is a variation of Linux. And if you're now these variations, there's a lot of different variations. There's hundreds of thousands of them. The most well-known one, I should say, is Ubuntu. So if you're thinking, why does Ubuntu sound familiar and it should be associated with Linux, that's why. But in future videos, we'll be taking a look at a couple different distributions, and this particular one, we're going to be looking at one of the more popular ones, such as, you guessed it, Linux Mint. So, if you're also looking for some more advanced stuff, like terminal commands and, how to run Windows programs inside of it, we'll have that down in further links. We'll have that in future videos, and you can check down in the description. There might be some links down there, or I'll end up putting all my Linux-related videos in a playlist. But for now, let's start with the very, very basics. So you can also tell that I've changed the themes and the style with this particularly. So if you decide to get Linux Mint and install a fresh copy and whatnot, it will not exactly look like this. Again, I've gone in and changed the themes to make it look more like Windows XP. And you can see it even has like the green menu and everything. Again, if you want to see how to do that, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But you can also see I've added some other stuff up here, and I've added another menu bar right about here. We'll also talk about hot corners in a minute. But you can see. So what's nice about this is with Linux and the Linux menus, most of the systems break them down into categories. So obviously, all applications is going to have all applications and all your programs. Games is going to have games. Internet's going to have basically a bunch of web browsers and other stuff that needs the internet. Office is going to have all your Office utilities. Now, this particular version comes pre-installed with things like Libre Office, which is the Linux equivalent of Microsoft Office. Another good thing is, and maybe I'll even make a separate video about this, is Libre Office is not only open source and free, but it can run on Windows. So if you're looking for something that can just do some basic editing, make some basic PowerPoint-like projects, maybe for school, nothing super, super fancy, and you don't want to shill out $100 to $200 for Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, you might want to look into Libre Office. Again, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that Office will have, or I should say Microsoft Office will have, but it does have a lot of them. Again, it's something to look into. But continuing on, you have stuff like sound and videos. Again, you could put on things like Spotify, VLC player, and again, under your administrations, you have all your stuff that edits your system, and you can modify the system and modify your partitions with gpartition and power statistics and, add printers there and so on and so forth. And of course, preferences is going to have change your themes, which we'll get to in just a minute. Things like, I think, hot corners is right there, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. Power management and so on and so forth. So that's all well and good. We've looked at some of the apps, but what if there's something on here that you want, but it's not pre-installed? Well, similar to how iPhones and Android smartphones work, believe it or not, this particular Linux has an app store. Now, also, it's here on the side, but you can go administrations and software manager. And if we give this just a second to load, there we go. This will load the software manager. So basically, this has all the apps that you could potentially install on your system. Now, again, the name will change, and the App Store will change a little bit depending on your system. I know with certain versions of Ubuntu, it's called Ubuntu One. Some will call it the App Store. Other distributions, or I should say, other variations of Linux, which people will refer to as distros or distributions, have different types of app stores. They'll also have different types of apps that can run on them. But again, you can put on common stuff like Audacity, Google Earth, the What's It app. I don't know what Cheese is, but if you want to take a look at it, you can single left click on it, and it will give you information. If you want to install it, you can. So apparently this particular one looks to be like some goofy selfie webcam thing. But so here's some of the popular ones, but if you're looking for more, you can go down here into the categories, like games. And again, you can install some games. And again, you can even further define it down here, like, do you want a board game? Do you want first person? This will give you all the first person. You can do real-time strategy. You can do turn-based strategy. You can do emulators and so much more. And again, you can go into the Office and put in different Office utilities. Now, the ones with check marks next to them, I've already installed. But continuing on, what's even nice about this is they have a science and education category. So most of these, I guess you could say, are good for school, or if you want to, you have like a younger child that's, wants to learn and test things out. Like they have here, paint program for young children, kind of those, if you're like me, you grew up with those kind of corny 90s games, those 90s educational games. You'll probably find stuff like that in here. But continuing on, let's say you wanted to install a program. So let's say we want to go back to games and we want to install this Warzone 2100. So we click on it. It'll give you this whole thing. Once again, sometimes it'll even give you pictures. Now, most of the apps on here are free. And again, they're free and open source. Every once in a while, you will run across one that you'll have to pay for, but it's very far and few between, just like on the Google Play Store or in the Apple Store. So, we want to install this. We'll click Install. Sometimes it'll say, additional software needs to be installed. So, we'll hit Continue. I will plug in my password. We'll click Authenticate, and then it will install. Now again, you guys don't want to sit here and watch, while my system installs this program. So we'll minimize that and come back to it. Now, you're wondering, okay, we've talked about apps. We've talked about kind of some of the navigations of Linux Mint. We've also talked about how to install apps, but what about updating our system? Well, once again, just like I guess you could say the Android or and iOS smartphones, there's a software updater. So if you click down here, there's a little shield. Right now it's checking for updates. If I had updates that needed to be installed, there would be a list of them right here. If it wasn't checking, I could hit refresh, and it would refresh the system. Or if I did have updates, I could hit install updates. Again, it'll ask for your password, and then it will install updates. So, kind of unlike Windows, this will update everything. This will update your games, your programs, your system components, and just a whole bunch of things. And from time to time, this will even allow you to upgrade to the most current version of Linux Mint. Now, and again, this doesn't super duper bug you that it's going, hey, you have an update that needs to be installed. Hey, you have an update that needs to be installed. Hey, you need an update. It'll let you do it at your leisure. So when you're not having a busy day, you can just hit install updates. I've never really seen it install updates when the system shuts down or starts up, unlike Windows. So, and again, the little shield down here, or at least in this particular distribution of Linux, will when it's not checking, it will have a check mark. If it can't connect to the internet or has updates, it'll have like a little red X in it, and it will normally let you know. So continuing on, we're still waiting for our software to install here. The system must be running kind of slow tonight. Down here in your sys tray, you have everything. So again, you have your Wi-Fi and your internet, and you can see there's my Wi-Fi right there. You could rescan for networks. There's stuff about user accounts. You can, lock the screen, switch users, log out, power off the system with the little figurehead thing here. Again, I have my NVIDIA graphics card, Bluetooth, your battery because I'm running on a laptop here. Obviously the date, sound is right there. There's your sound settings and stuff like that. So now that we've talked about programs, obviously with programs, especially Office programs, you're going to have files. Now, similar to most operating systems, you'll have a documents folder, a downloads folder, a music pictures folders, but they won't be in a My Documents, or they won't be in, I think it's now called user files like they are in Windows. What you have is you have a home folder. So, and even has a little house on it. So if we open up that up. Now again, in your home folder, a lot of configuration files are stored. And hidden folders. Now I've gone in through the magicalness of Linux and made them visible. So that's why a lot of them have dots. But most of the stuff you'll see will be things like desktop documents, downloads. And again, all your downloads will be in your downloads folder. All your documents will be in your documents folder. Your pictures will be in your pictures. Videos will be in videos. Music will be in music. Again, videos. I have a couple videos in there. So that's basically how this will work for that. Now again, if you want to see flash drives that you plugged in other devices, for this particular version you have a thing called Computer. Very similar to the Windows My Computer, and I think it's now called This PC. But continuing on, you can see I partitioned my drive here to have different partitions and, I think this one has Windows on it, this one has Linux on it. You can see there's the DVD drive. And then again, if you had a flash drive, it would have a little flash drive-like symbol. You could click on that and view your flash drives and whatever other devices. Or if you had a floppy disk, it would have a little picture of a floppy. And you could double-click on that and it would start reading your floppy disks. So now that we've talked a little more about some of the basic functions like start menus, apps, updates, and all that, there's some other really cool features with Linux. Like earlier, we talked about hot corners. So we'll open up the menus, the settings to change it, but what's nice about this is when I bring my mouse up to the corner, you can see the two applications that I have open. I have Software Manager installing the game, and I also have OBS Studios, or I should say Open Broadcast Studios, recording what you're seeing now. So that's that corner. I think the top one does this. Yeah, top one. If I bring it down to the corner, you can see I have multiple different workspaces. And you can see, again, you can see the apps. I can jump from workspaces. And go back to that. Now you're probably wondering, okay, how do I set all this up? You also said earlier, you can go in and you can change like the taskbar and the style and the buttons and all that. Well, if you go under Start Menu and Preferences, you can see there's all your preferences to change, like your Bluetooth, your account details. There's our hot corners. Or if you really want, you can look for the little system settings icon. It's here under Preferences, or you can just click the little gear logo over here, and it will bring up. So, for under Preferences, we can go to Hot Corners, and there you go. And you can enable. So when your mouse goes into that corner, you can have it set to show all windows. I have the 2 bottom corners to set to show all workstations. Again, you can go and change that. You can have it run specific programs. You can have it show the desktop, all windows. But I'll leave it with what I had so far. And I will have it show all workspaces. So that's hot corners. You can go in and configure that. Now, the coolest part is, I know with Windows, they had themes that you could change. You could go in and, change the coloring and all that. But with this, you can not only go in and change the theme, the coloring, you can change the buttons, like I did here. And you can see these are all the different types of buttons and taskbars and menus that you can go in and change. So you can go in, if I really wanted, I could change my, not taskbar, title bar, that's what they're called. Title bar and the minimize, maximize, and close buttons. You can change it to make it to have a similar theme to the iOS. You can do like a Windows 10. In here, here are the Windows XP. We can get out of that. You can even change the coloring of the folders that we talked about earlier. So you can change it to more like a red or a blue or a dark blue or a pink. You can even change kind of the style. Like you can have this weird oxygen style with like bars through it and ooh, magicalness. You can go in and change the buttons. You can see some of them are orange, some of them are blue. You can change a lot of the coloring with this. You can make it look, again, you can make it look like Windows 10. There's a way to make it look like the different stylings in XP. And all your buttons. You can go in and change your mouse pointers. And obviously you can go in and change your desktop, your background settings and your pictures and all that. Now, if you're feeling kind of lazy, we're going to hit no for that. If you're feeling kind of lazy, you can go in and actually download themes. You can see people have rated the themes. They have descriptions of the themes. You can also go into settings and change different settings of themes and so on and so forth. Again, we could go through the system. You can change your time. You can change general things and screensavers and startup applications and windowing and workspaces. And you can change a lot of different things. Now, going through, you can... So this is kind of generally Linux Mint. We will in our next video, we'll probably end up talking about Ubuntu, and we'll have a couple other videos exploring some of the basic stuff of different operating systems and different themes and different stuff like that. So if you really want to see these videos, we'll also have more for you more advanced users. We'll have stuff maybe about, we'll talk more about things like terminal, right there. We'll talk about some cool system configurations about how to get if you have older hardware, how to kind of get it to work with newer programs, how to run Windows programs on Linux, and other cool stuff like that. So if you really want to see these videos, you know what you got to do? You got to hit that subscribe button. You also got to check down in the description below, because we'll have a bunch of links and stuff like that. I'm also thinking of trying to put all my videos into playlists, or I should say all my Linux videos into a playlist. So you can just start at the very beginning, and work your way through all the way to, terminal commands and more advanced stuff like that. All right, YouTube. Thanks for hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.